Hello y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over my monthly recap for March. I'm going to start off with my current reads. I won't be able to review them entirely just yet, but I will go over an in-depth review of them by next month. So I'm going to start off with Swordheart. Swordheart by Kingfisher, and obviously like the dust jacket is so beautiful. Like that's crazy. There's this beautiful quote on the back. And then with it off, I don't know if any of you guys are curious, but it's got this sword, and this is the spine. Let me read the first sentence to you because it might sell you on the book if the beautiful cover and the author hasn't sold you already. Hala of Rutgerd Howe had just inherited a great deal of money and was therefore spending her evening trying to figure out how to kill herself. You can tell by the tone that it's going to be a very like unique story in the sense that it's like, you know, starting off so strong. I don't know. There's a lot to be said about it, but I actually am not that far. I'm only like page 50 about. So I've been introduced to the main male character, and then yeah, that's about it. They've been through like a few bits of conflict, but nothing too crazy. And as I said before, it is a little slow paced, which is kind of my preference for the moment. The second book that I am gonna read after this one and hopefully finish before the end of March is Heavenly Bodies. Okay, so the summary says, in a world ruled by the cruel and merciless stars, Alara has been cursed by fate. A prophecy promises she will fall for a star, but that it will kill them both. There's more, obviously, but I feel like that little blurb gives you enough to go on whether or not this is kind of like the book for you. And again, a really like a beautiful book yet again. It's kind of actually the reason why I got it a little bit, because it used to have another cover because it was available on Kindle Unlimited also, so I saw it on there and online and just being talked about, and the cover before wasn't really my cup of tea, but this is beautiful. Okay, yeah, so these are going to be my next two reads, and I think I'll finish them in the next few days. Okay, moving on now though, I'm going to start off with my book recommendations for y'all, just so y'all have like you know, the best going forward, and then you can decide whether or not you want to see like what I definitely would not recommend. The first book I would recommend would be A Harvest of Hearts by Andrea. I'm kind of rough on pronunciations, so sorry in advance. So A Harvest of Hearts is about this woman or girl, Foss. She grows up in this village on the outskirts of a kingdom, and every once in a while there are these magic workers that come and visit. Now, Foss being who she is, her personality is very clear from the beginning of the book. She does not care. She has her dad, she has her butcher shop. She does not care about the magic workers who come and enamor everybody and have them dropping their jaws and stopping their work to see what they're doing. But what everybody in the village, including her, can't help but to notice is how every time the magic workers come, somebody, at the very least, loses only a piece of their heart or a bit of it if they're lucky. Sometimes they lose more. And this story is about what happens when Foss has to work to get her heart back and how much she's willing to risk to get it back. I actually really enjoyed this book. I thought the tone was very clear throughout. I loved the writing and kind of just how the author went about explaining the stories. I could see some people finding it a little repetitive, but if what I've said hasn't sold you, a few things to make note of is that it has a similar male main character as Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, so kind of like a similar tone as Wendell Brambley, is that how you say his last name? Anyways, similar to him. And then also there are some people saying that, and I agree with this, that it's reminiscent of Howl's Moving Castle. So if you're looking for something to scratch that Howl's Moving Castle, Wendell itch, I would recommend this book. On top of that, if that wasn't enough to sell you, that it's got a whole sentient household thing, and then also a little, I wouldn't call him a familiar, he's more of like a cat, and you know, when they're in the stories, it's like, I don't know, they do good. A lot of people said that the cat Cornelius was their favorite add-in to the story. I don't know if he was my favorite, but I definitely loved him. So I would totally recommend you guys check that out. Please, I'm begging you. Next up is A Rivalry of Hearts. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is, It's kind of an enemies to lovers story, and I wouldn't say that lightly. I don't love when people say enemies to lovers and it really isn't. I believe that it is a light enemies to lovers in the sense that they're not fighting with weapons or anything like that. They're fighting with like words and their motives and playing chess with their mind, or however you want to phrase it. It's not like a typical enemies to lovers that you read in fantasy. They're two writers who end up being on the same book tour, and they end up fighting because they find out that their contract can only be given to one person. So they create some sort of bet to help decide who should be able to get the contract in the end. And the story is about kind of what occurs for them, what they go through, and then how like far they would go for the contract or for each other. So I would definitely check this out simply because of the world building, and then also because of like the love between them. I kind of liked it too because of the jealousy and possessiveness aspect from the main male character. It's not heavy, but you can tell that he does feel the jealousy a good bit. And then I liked the build up. It was very like teasing the readers kind of thing, so I found that very, very enjoyable. Okay, next up, I think that's it for the hard recommendations. Ooh, except for, I will say, maybe this is far off, maybe some of you guys will disagree, but, and I know I'm gonna mispronounce this, so I'm so sorry in advance, but Nocticadia, I actually did enjoy that book. I understand that some aspects of it were like a little lengthy, and it could have been like some parts could have been cut out more, and some parts could have been edited more. I do fully understand that. I understand that there are like holes in the plot, but I did really enjoy the setting. I feel like setting is so huge for me. It's one of the reasons why One Dark Window worked the way that it did, even though the romance within it kind of seemed like it was forced, or like I think his name was Raven and Elspeth could have been with other people entirely and been happy. The setting for One Dark Window along with Nocticadia were enough for me to feel satisfied as a reader, and maybe that's saying too, maybe y'all are different. But I was satisfied, and I would recommend that book. One other one, then I don't know how I forgot about it, but Charlotte's Reject. It's available on Kindle Unlimited for those of you wondering, and it's essentially about this guy who grows up being bullied by this girl in his high school, and then she ends up finding out that they're mates, and then it's like how they deal with that. I don't want to give too much away, that's why the summary is so bland, because I feel like if I did, it'd spoil. But I will say, some people said that the main male character was a little bland despite him having hobbies, and I could see it, but I was so I felt so much enjoyment from reading their relationship grow together and kind of the story and like the plot of what they were experiencing that I didn't really mind. Okay, so a big soft recommendation for me would be The Prince of Prohibition. So it's supposedly sets place around the 1920s, I believe, and it's that mixture of like 20s madness with also like fae chaos, which was really good to read. One of the problems that I found when reading the story though is that there's not really a lot of things that feel like the 1920s to me. You know, like when you read The Great Gatsby, there's so much in there, there's so much flair, there's so much like just like energy, like you can feel it. I would say that for this, The Prince of Prohibition, it wasn't as much there, but granted, on its own, the book is still enjoyable. It's hard not spoiling so much, but I would give a soft recommendation to it if you're not reading it for the 1920s vibe. Also, it's gonna be a trilogy, but there's only 2 of the books now. The Empress of Everything, the 3rd book, comes out, I think, around April or May. I could be so wrong, but it could be like way further in the future, but I believe it will be 2025 that it does come out. This one I struggle to recommend, the next book that I'm going to mention, because I know like it is a little basic. It's not fantasy, but it is like obviously of course romance, because anything I read I prefer it to have romance. I'm picky like that or whatever, but this book is The King of Wrath, and I know the characters don't have like the most chemistry ever, yada yada yada, but there is something so comforting about reading a romance novel and you know how it's gonna go. You know how the mafia boss will fight to get his woman. During the month of March, I needed a good bit of comfort, so I was kind of reading some more cookie cutter light books. So that's why I would give a soft recommendation for this. If you're looking for a, not cozy, I wouldn't call it cozy, but cozy in the sense that you know it's coming, I would recommend it. And the author, Anna, her writing is very digestible. So for this next book that's also on Kindle Unlimited, it's gonna be Slouch by Helen Harper. This one is, I wouldn't call it exactly cozy because it was essentially like a murder mystery, not really quite a thriller, but definitely like, can I call it a cozy murder mystery? Is that a possible apt description? I would say yes, hopefully. It was a very good pace. The pace was consistent throughout. We have our main character who is a witch, as you can tell by the title. This girl, all she does is relax, and I know it sounds boring, but her morals drive her to do more than that sometimes. And not only do her morals drive her, I would say, like, in this book, fate essentially does. You could call it the plot, though, if you really want to. She ends up being tied to a very hardworking, stuck-up witch, I guess you could call him, and he sounds kind of cute. He sounds kind of adorable. That was something that made the book more enjoyable for me. It wasn't the fact that he was down to earth or anything like that. It was the fact that they were such polar opposites and they came together because of like a mutual understanding of how they functioned together. There was like that respect that was fostered between the two of them, and it was good. So like I said, this book is like a murder mystery, not quite a thriller, and they kind of have to work together because his regular job is a detective, and since they're tied together, she has to help him. So they go through and like they solve this case together, and you kind of see it. The romance does unfold, but I wouldn't call it a slow burn. There's tension, there's like maybe yearning, if you could call it that, on her part, but they don't actually start to date. I believe if anything like that were to happen, it would happen later on in the further books going forward. I haven't read the second one yet, but I am curious about it, so maybe next month. Now, this book is gonna be my book that I would not recommend, and I might get a little bit of hate for that, but I did not enjoy reading the book Gild, and let me tell you why. For those of you who don't know, it's like a play on the story of Midas, the king who had the golden touch. But in this story, our main character does. She's all gold, she lives in a cage. The king, Midas, he keeps her locked in there and makes it seem like it's for her own good. There's a bit of Stockholm syndrome going on, of course. My gripes with the story are the fact that there's a lot of telling rather than showing. That's a big thing for me. I think it made the book like way more convoluted than it had to be, and some of you guys may disagree. That's fine. Maybe I was overthinking it when I was reading. Another thing that kind of bothered me for her, she seems too consistent throughout the book despite the changes she's endured, and maybe that's just me being a stickler. I probably shouldn't be talking about how much I dislike this book or whatever, but I will say at the end of the day, Gild was just not for me, and the only reason why I would continue the series is out of pure curiosity, and I'm partially surprised with how popular it is, partially. No hate towards the author, of course. It was still a good book. I'm partially surprised with how popular it is just because of how like lacking it felt, especially because of the telling rather than showing. I feel like that's so important when reading a book. Like, you need to feel immersed in the world, and I'm constantly being flushed with all this information that I can like pick up as a reader on my own. It's just a bit much for me personally. Those are all the books I believe deserve a notable mention. I did read a few others across the board. If you're curious about them, let me know down in the comments below. I can give more of like a thorough monthly review going forward if that's what you so prefer. But other than that, have a great day, stay hydrated, and please stay cozy. Bye.